Women's Power to Heal. Mother Earth, I am Maya. In Season 4, The New Earth. Everything is God. To understand this phrase, we must first realign the perspective of what we see as distortion, the thwarting, the bad, and the ugly. What we witness as negative configurations of life seems inevitable in the 3D matrix we live. It is not easy to see beyond the surface of the grotesque or situations that wrench at the heart. The extent to which we understand life in its wholeness is the degree to which we can interpret all expressions of distortions as the one spirit and the one in everything, the one that has many forms. Our world is riddled by distortions: poverty, disease, depravity, corruptions, betrayals, and an otherwise gnarled reality mired in political malaise. There's endless forms of distortion continually presenting themselves in the theater of our lives. We subsist in an apparent reality. Anything that takes form, that is manifested, is considered apparent. Apparent does not mean illusion. It means Mithya, a Sanskrit thought that describes the apparent reality as that which has its source in something else, meaning it does not stand on its own. It is not separate from the energy from which it is created. To exist, it depends on its source. Like all things that are apparent in our vast universe, the source is the infinite, all-pervading light, prime source, creator, God, Brahman, Adonai, called by many names. This source is ruled by Satyam, eternal truth, universal law, infinite love, pure light. What is aligned with Satyam, wondrous joy, wonderment, unconditional love, the spirit of one, universal light, always has direct connection to and the communion with Prime Source. Distortion, on the other hand, has its source in the apparent reality. It has no direct connection to Prime Source, as distortion, that is. It exists as Mithya, until such time as it transforms in fluency and resolves into alignment with Source. All distortion has the inherent potential to change, find its way, transform into the light. When this happens, our direct access to Source inadvertently opens. Source is never close to humanity. It is simply that distortion casts layers of spiritual amnesia in our minds, and we become blinded to the path. Even the most vile and heinous actions carry the innate potential to transform, to change, and align. Recognizing this truth cautions and encourages us to hold space at such time as we witness these events. Holding space is the expansive act of observing with neutrality. By not judging, scorning, becoming righteous kings clamoring for heads to roll, by not running from them or apathetically shutting them out, we grow our human instrument into a balanced force wherein data can be collected through our heart and in turn gets transferred to the ever-present underlying field. The field of pure consciousness that is woven within all of the millions of galaxies in our universe. This is where universal law rules. Let me demonstrate the Mithya Satyam point with the analogy of the goldsmith. He uses the raw material of gold to melt and create beautiful jewelry, bangles, necklaces, rings, etc. Each piece of jewelry enjoys its own particular form, sourced in the formless raw gold. The bangle itself exists, but it has no real existence without the raw material of gold. Neither do the rings or necklaces. All these beautiful pieces cease to exist once they are melted down into the raw source of gold. Gold here is Satyam, jewelry is Mithya. All beautiful creations bring joy to the eyes, the same way that the brilliant summer days, a ripened peach begging to be released from the vine, light riding on the rims of moving water, a sunset that stretches a coral veil across the horizon, all bring joy to the heart. To exist, all of this magnificent landscape depends on nature. All beautiful creations is Mithya. They depend on a primary source. Nature here is the Satyam, that which arises from one source only, prime creator, the universal light of God. All beauty has its source in prime creator. None of these incredible forms or experiences manifested and apparent can stand without their source. Now let's change the lens from the brilliant light to the shades of gray. A goldsmith's protege is learning to create jewelry from the molten gold. He tries to mold a floral pendant and it comes out looking like a highly abstract amoeba with whiskers. The apprentice creation is distorted, it is disheartening, it is still Mithya. Although it lacked the perfection of the master's jewelry, the gold from which it was created is still Satyam. You walk outdoors and meet the weather, which is gray and stuffy. You come face on to your neighbor's rattling lawnmower hovering over the lawn as if it believed itself to be a starship having a midlife crisis seizure. A dissonant, distorted scene for sure. But lawnmower still remains Mithya with its source in raw metals and electrical wires. The Satyam, of course. The Satyam of its existence. The lesson here is that both distortion and beauty coexist in the apparent reality, as they do in every one of us. At present, we are witnessing the emergence of New Earth. Through calibration of our mind-body psyche to the heightened 5D frequency, a stupendous feat for humanity, and at the same time, we are wading in its torrent of distortions engineered through the 3D matrix. Yet as we rise to embody the higher frequency of unconditional love and infinite light, we're being ferried into seamless connection to Prime Source. On the other hand, when we are caught wallowing in the tar pits, wrestling with the egregious partnership of slime and grime, we are left bereft of access to Source, until, of course, we can haul ourselves up from the tar pits, cleanse the sludge, and transform into the immutable light of Prime Creator. Everything has its source in Prime Creator. All the multiple forms called Mithya, that which has its source in something else, that which cannot stand on its own without source, like gold and jewelry, where gold jewelry does not exist without the gold. Gold is Satyam, underlying truth of the jewelry, with the underlying source of all reality being Prime Creator. Every form that is expressed, whether pure or impure, perfect or imperfect, is simply a form. It is Mithya. Mithya is not an illusion, as noted earlier, but simply put, it cannot and does not exist without source. Our individual body has its source in the soul. For example, the embodied soul called Atman in Sanskrit. This soul is no other than the Prime Creator, immortal soul called Brahman or Adonai. The jewelry cannot exist without the source of gold. The magnificent landscape does not exist without its source in nature. The distortions we call darkness, evil and vile are only Mithya. That which do not exist or do not stand on their own, that which is permeable, temporal, and temporary, that which can be changed or transformed, and as a result can connect to its original source in prime source. Ultimately, every expression has its reality in Satyam, universal truth, and all distortions in Mithya can be transformed, and once transformed, return back to the light of infinite source, to Adonai. Everything is God. Thank you for listening, and peace be your journey. I have noted some resources at the bottom of the transcript summary in the podcast station for those who are interested in accessing the whole wisdom, the original wisdom that is wholesome and untarnished, that is being presented by the Galactic Federation of Light and the Arcturians as well. Take care. Be well.